Hey, Sens fans, welcome to episode 2 of the Senstennial Listener Series. We are joined by Liam tonight. Liam, thank you so much for being on. And how are you doing today?
Good. How about yourself?
We're rocking, we're rolling.
Electric. Just
Ele-
electric.
Electric, as Matt likes to say.
So, Liam, once again, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. You had expressed some interest in talking about the 2024 off season for the Sens and specifically some of the needs that they need to take the next step
Yeah.
and possibly compete for a playoff spot. So, in your mind, what does that look like? Well, I think it's the biggest offseason in recent memory. And I think it's like a giant mystery box in the sense that we don't have any precedent for roster moves, especially additions uh, from this group, other than the waiver claim for Kachuk, but that's pretty minor. Um, so it'll be interesting to see what they do. I think, um, well, first and foremost, you have to figure out the goalie situation. I think, I mean, they have two guys under contract, but I think it's pretty safe that at least one of them's not going to be back. And how they're gone is we'll see. But they have to get a guy who can, stop pucks at least at an average rate. Which is
Because
hard to come by as an Ottawa Senators goalie. Yeah, some teams seem to do it like no problem, but we haven't been able to do that since we added Great Anderson. Um, yeah, so I think that's first and foremost who that is. I I think goalies are so hard to evaluate. I think unfortunately our old GM was the worst at that evaluation. Um, so we'll see how they do that now. Maybe they incorporate more analytics into that. Maybe they're looking at different things for a goalie. I don't know. I think Dorian, one thing he did, as did the whole roster, uh, was name hunt. Like I think when he had Talbot, I think that was the name he liked, or Matt Murray, I think that was the name he liked. So I don't think the goalie, whoever it is, necessarily has to be a name. Just find someone and probably don't overpay too much, whether that's a free agent or via trade. So I think I don't know if it's the first thing they do, but it's probably the most important to get them on a playoff trajectory. Um, Otherwise, I think they have to do something with that right hand side. I think the only guy you can comfortably say is good is Zub. Unfortunately, he's also hurt a lot. Maybe that is a new training session, who knows? But and there's some RHD out there on free agency. I don't know who are interested in joining Ottawa. I know there's a lot of talk about Tanev, who's been phenomenal these playoffs for Dallas. Um, there's other guys, Matt Roy. Who else is there? I'm missing out, but I know there's plenty
Alex
of other
Carrier,
Alex Carey, of
Dylan
course. Yeah,
DeMello.
yeah. Apparently he's going to resign though when the Vegas saw rumor today. It doesn't surprise me, but even if it does somehow become available, that's an ideal guy. Of course, he shouldn't have let him go in the first place, but that's another discussion. Because currently on the right side, other than Zoo, you have JBD, who's at best, I think. And then Hamonic, I think he'll probably be like Rhode Island. At least that's what we're all hoping. And hopefully he's healthy, happy, and all that. But I think it's probably best for everyone to put him on Rhode Island. So you definitely need to shore up the right side. In terms of other roster construction, like the bottom six, we talk about that a lot. I don't know how many changes need to be made to that because like Greg's there, Joseph maybe a little consistent, but at least he's good there. But another thing we haven't done since God knows when uh, was add to the bottom six, and we like talk with the guy like, oh, that's a solid ad. We haven't had that in a long time. Um, so again, I think if you actually put on a real pro scouting hat. If you dig into it, whether that's the game tape numbers, whatever, I think there's ways you can address lower in the lineup, especially because there's no um, with not having a real top draft pick since 2020. You don't really have a guy you can comfortably say is going to fill in that spot. Maybe Crookshank, and he's a little bit older, I guess, from a prospect standpoint. But um, so you really probably have to go to the organization to find someone there. Um, and yeah, like it'll be interesting to see too, because there's so much talk about sort of similar to Toronto, different circumstances like breaking up the core. Um, who that is, probably Chikrin. That's just my educated guess, like, because of his contract and the term he has left. And there's been questions about his fit, uh, the left side there, and the end of your presser is a little awkward. So he could be a guy. I wouldn't trade Shabbat. I think that could be a regrettable trade, especially you have him under contract. Maybe a little overpaid, but you still have him. And in the forwards, like Batherton's contract's too good. Norris, I think, is too hard to trade if you wanted to trade him. Because mostly because of the injury history than contract. So like they'll have to be creative. Luckily, unlike last year, again, thank you to Dorian for this. There is some cap space to work with. Not a super amount, but still pretty decent. Where they can, sign a guy or two, especially if they can maybe get some money off the books. I don't know if they'll use their buyout or not. I doubt they use it for Corpusalo. I'm fine with that, but I know it's a lot of commitment there, money wise. Maybe they use it for Hamonic. We'll see. But yeah, there's some options there to work with the cap space. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Interesting to see too how the new coach affects the offseason moves, because we've seen in the past some of the moves Dorian made were for the coach. He did have Guy Boucher. We all remember Christina Medico, Nate Thompson, Tom Pyatt, guys like that who didn't really move the needle at all and just were there because they are familiar with the coach. And you have DJ, guys like Zaitsev,
Josh Brown,
Austin Watson, Ron Hainsey. I guess Connor Brown would work out okay. Tyler Ennis too. But so it'd be interesting to see how much say or how much impact Travis Green has. And most places don't really do that. I think we're all just kind of hoping for it's not a repeat of that same sort of evaluation of, oh, you played for our coach, then you'd be a good fit here type analysis. So it'll be interesting to see. So it'll be interesting to see how they do everything with the flexibility they have. They'll probably have to move out a guy, like I was saying, to get something they want. So that's why, like, if they do choose someone like Chikrin, or anyone, but we'll use Chikrin, I prefer to use it like a overused term, but a hockey trade. You get a guy similar age, hopefully, more or less, who can help you now, and hopefully they have a bit more term too, so that they can help for a few years too. Because I don't think doing it for just futures. I think there's a lot of risk in that, even with our barren pipeline and the looming possibility of losing our future first. That shouldn't be the center of whatever trade you make. Hopefully they can kind of kill two birds with one stone there, and mixing the lineup up while also adding someone substance. Maybe that's a goalie, who knows? So that's kind of how how I see the offseason, what I see their needs are, kind of all over. But I don't think they need a complete makeover.
Yeah.
I think they just need more balance. They need to mix more two-way. Um, and of course, the goalie situation needs to be addressed pretty uh, pretty importantly. So that's kind of how I see um, from the pro level the off season ahead.
And if there was one, because we know it's a consequential off season, but there's also, it's hard to do business in this league. You can't just do everything at once. There's also 31 other teams trying to make moves. If there's one thing that you could zero in on, and one thing that you want to see Staios and Co. do this summer, what would it be?
Mm-hmm. It's a good question because probably a couple of things. I think first step, I was talking with the pro, but first step is to, I think, nail it with the 7th overall pick. I think that'll send a good message considering we haven't really nailed the pick since like 2020. So that's step one. But after that, going with eyes on next year's roster, it's finding the right goalie. I don't think it has to be like a name chasing thing. I think it just needs like something to kind of like stabilize it a bit. I think that
a lot could be possible with league average goaltending because the Sens have been so far from it the last number of years that you don't need to go out and get a world beater necessarily. You can
like
step one, stabilize, and then in another off season, maybe through the draft, maybe through other means, try and beef up that position long term.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe the person you find, maybe they need another Craig Anderson situation, like when we got him in 2011, it was a bit of like we're taking a chance in this guy, but he has some talent. Maybe we'll see how it goes. He didn't give up anything of substance for him, and there was time here. He was never given like that big contract, either in term or in AAV. I know it's easier said than done, and find your all-time goalie goat.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think you're gonna have a tough time trying to find the next Craig Anderson.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna. I just mean like the spirit of that move, and the spirit of that kind of acquisition, where it's relatively cheap, but there's that opportunity for solid goaltending.
And everybody could use that, I think. But thank you so much for coming on, Liam. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. And thank you to everyone who is listening. Really appreciate it. If you want to be on the show, feel free to reach out to us. We're on Twitter, Discord, Instagram, Reddit, all those good old platforms at Senstennial. Feel free to send us a message if you ever want to come share your thoughts. So thanks again, Liam, and see you next time.
Thanks, Liam.